Cavern? Is that you? Where on earth have you been the last couple of months? I've been busy, and I don't exactly feel like indulging in it, unless I was swayed a little by our little agreement. I'm gonna be real with you, I don't even remember what agreement you're talking about. You told me at least some stuff that you've been hiding, and I consider cooperating with you. Simple. Cavern, don't think I don't remember you sending me out for dead. And I thought you said you could track me across dimensions.
That PDA allows me to be able to contact you in any dimension. It'll also be an upgrade compared to that remote you've been using.
I suppose that was a lie as well, considering you never went looking for me. You might as well be a part of that deal too. No words from either of you then? That's fine. I'm a patient guy. I've waited this long after all. What's a little bit more time gonna do me? I've got all the time in the world. Ben 10 Alien Force: The Rise of Hex. Yes, I realize I'm going backwards with the series for this video, but Ultimate Alien is just Alien Force 2 anyways, so let's just pretend we haven't gone backwards. This game was actually the first in the Ben 10 series that you could download available on WiiWare and the Xbox Live Arcade. This is incredibly surprising even for this series because from what I'm aware of, there's not a huge amount of license-based games that were exclusively on online services as part of the Shovelware collection of games, which usually have, and I'm putting this gently, a bad reputation. Seeing Ben 10 get one is a little worrying to say the least, and this was in between Vilgax Attacks and Cosmic Destruction, which now that I've played them are my top 2 Ben 10 games currently, but for back then, yikes. Anyways, a good while back I mentioned that I wouldn't be able to review this game as it wasn't available anymore, but thankfully someone followed my winking and nudging and I can emulate the game to review it. So, thanks to you guys, today I'll be looking at Ben 10 Alien Force: The Rise of Hex to see if this game belongs with all the other Shovelware titles, or if it's alongside the other Ben 10 games. Hex and Charmcaster are planning on ending the age of technology on Earth and beginning the age of magic so that Hex can rule over everything. In order to do so, he needs 15 ancient mystical talismans, but they are hidden. However, they'll be using Ben to do their work for them. We then cut over to Ben, who's fiddling around with the Omnitrix, and great, he sorted it out, so now he can't access all of his aliens from the very beginning. Well, at least he doesn't need it now. Ben, I need you now. Nice job, Ben. Gwen has discovered that Kevin has gone missing and needs his help finding him. After a while, Ben gets Kevin free from Techodons, only to find out that the Techodons were to buy Hex some time and now Gwen has been captured and having her mana drained to enhance Hex's powers. They both go out to get Gwen, or not. Great. Ben then beats Charmcaster and rescues Gwen, so now they both set out to take down— okay. The amount of coincidences for gameplay is getting really annoying now. Ben, alone, finds Hex and accidentally brings him all 15 of the talisman needed to grant him even further power. But Ben puts a stop to this plan by using Lodestar to trap Hex inside of one of the talisman. Then Ben goes to get a chocolate asparagus smoothie. Ew. Now, my main issue with the story is the amount of coincidences for gameplay and probably even budget purposes. Ben getting split up from both Kevin and Gwen right after getting back with them feels far too convenient. If they instead did something else while Ben was doing his stuff, that would be fine. But no, Kevin and Gwen kinda just wait outside until the story's over. Also, the talisman are hidden from my grasp thing doesn't make much sense because every single place you go to has guards set up everywhere by the villains, and most of the talisman are out clear as day, almost as if they were placed there for Ben to get them and use them on magically sealed doors that they would have had to have made, which at that point it kind of feels like they could have just found the talismans themselves and used them at that point. It feels like a big middleman step and way too coincidental for me to actually enjoy it. This game definitely has the weakest story in the series so far. That's really all I can say at this point. The cutscenes are... okay, a game based on sprites is not bad. That's not what I'm saying here. I mean, where do you think my avatar comes from? I wouldn't have too much of a problem with them if it weren't for two things. One, some of them just look off, especially in the face. Like, just look at some of these, they are definitely weird. And two, they aren't voiced. Again, not inherently a bad thing, but you'll notice in this game that there's pretty minimal voice acting, with only Ben and his aliens, Charmcaster and Hex being voiced. And they don't have that many lines either. At least it's good from what little of it there is, and they are all done by the original voice actors, so that's a plus. Is the in-game art style any better? A little. Environments look fine, but character models are pretty low detail. This is a Shovelware title, so I should probably expect that, but honestly, some of the DS versions of the console games look better, and I know I haven't reviewed the DS versions of these games, but that's kinda saying a lot from what I've seen. Now, almost everything has been pretty not good so far. What about the music? Well, the tracks fit for the areas you're in, but they are also short, constantly repeat, are very repetitive, and are probably some of the most unmemorable songs I've listened to. I can guarantee that this game has the weakest soundtrack, probably of the whole series. Hopefully I'm not proven wrong on that with future games. Also, it bleeds over when going from scenes to gameplay and to the main menu. At least loading is pretty much instant. Not that that's really been much of a problem with most of the games I've played so far, so yay. You play as Ben and 10 of his aliens in order to platform around to collect keys that open various doors and talismans to get through levels, as well as fight enemies and eventually some boss fights. At the start, you only have 2 aliens thanks to Ben's incompetence with the Omnitrix, but as you get through levels, you'll gain back more and more aliens. Ben is able to change into any of these alien forms as long as he has enough Omnitrix energy. While in these forms, various conditions cause the meter to go down, and if it does run out or the alien runs out of health, he'll revert back to Ben. However, as most aliens, the Omnitrix energy recharges while in their form, and there are pods around the levels which refill health and Omnitrix energy. Every character has 2 forms of attacks, with one of them being a melee and the other which uses Omnitrix energy. They also have their own unique abilities and traits. Swampfire can bring up roots from cracks in the floor and walls nearby to make platforms. He's also able to heal himself, but I wasn't able to figure out how to activate that on emulator, so we'll gloss over that. Brainstorm can use electricity on machines to activate them so that you can proceed through areas. Echo can create up to 3 versions of himself, which is used to press multiple switches at once. You can also switch between them all. Lodestar can magnetically attract himself to metals, which allow him to technically float in midair. Big Chill has a dash and breathing move that can freeze any enemy that comes in contact with it. He's also able to double jump and glide around. Jetray also has a double jump, but instead of gliding, he has a super dash which propels him forward across large gaps. Humongosaur is able to carry large objects in order to place them onto plates that need heavy objects on them. Spider Monkey's projectile can stick enemies in place, and has the ability to sling himself up to some platforms above him. He can also climb some structures that other aliens can't, and crouch to get through tight spaces. Chromostone can take crystals and store them within himself to transport them to other locations and gain access to more areas. Goob is able to splat himself along the ground, letting him pass through gates in the ground. Chromostome and Goob also take damage differently than the other aliens. For them, Omnitrix energy doesn't regenerate, but in place of that, they take damage through the Omnitrix energy and don't flinch when taking damage. There's also the time attack mode, where you have to try and complete levels as quickly as possible, and there's also survival mode where you have to, well, survive in an area for as long as possible when enemies constantly appearing. This game, for some reason, has the fastest switching between aliens. And I know that I reviewed Cosmic Destruction first and that one already did it, but I can switch between 10 aliens as fast as this, and when I'm in this menu, it stops time, which is actually something I wish Cosmic Destruction did. And this is pretty useful too, like switching to Chromostone to absorb a crystal, then switch to another alien because they move faster than Chromostone, then switching back to Chromostone when needed to place the crystal. Some characters are just a lot faster in general, like Humongosaur with carrying objects because he can just jump constantly whenever he's holding stuff, which most games don't do. Plus, you are able to use all aliens you unlock in past levels when playing through them again, as well as for the time attack to try and get fast times on levels. But would it be fun to do that? Not really, no. The level structure of this game gets boring and repetitive very fast, even with all of the different aliens that you get. The main issue is combat is hardly ever needed. You can just walk past pretty much every enemy and not have any trouble getting through the game. Even if you do choose to fight against enemies, most of them can be taken down by simply mashing punch against them even as a regular Ben. So you can probably imagine how any alien with the ability to stun enemies can be extremely broken. Oh, and in terms of health, don't worry because again, Swampfire can heal himself. The aliens that aren't broken are now reserved for movement and puzzles, only making them feel very situational, like Lodestar or Echo, and at some point you kinda just stop using some of them for the most part, like Humongosaur. Now you could make the argument that being broken is a good thing. In fact, I remember a good while back I made this exact claim. But here, being really strong doesn't work because I have no reason to fight standard enemies, especially in an intense way, when I can just instead punch them repeatedly until they die. And bosses. They are ridiculously easy to cheese. Again, some really strong options exist to already make them a cakewalk, but the AI almost seems like it's asking you to cheese them out at times. I have found too many times where I can just stand still and not get hit by something on complete accident. The grand total combat for the most part not even mattering on top of the rest of the game feeling very repetitive makes for a rather tiring experience throughout the game, and you'll feel yourself going on autopilot a lot of the time. Oh, there's also a survival mode and it's incredibly boring for pretty much the exact same reasons I've already stated, so I won't dwell on it. It sucks. You are able to look at where to go next at any time. This helps you get a somewhat clearer picture on your next objective and where you should be. Which on one hand, thank goodness, because levels can be really windy, especially the later levels and there's no map of any kind, but on the other hand it also feels like this was implemented because the areas are windy, and honestly it's a really big crutch to get you through the game. This game does have some extra post-game. There's a hard mode, which I'm guessing increases the damage you take and the health of enemies, as I can't imagine anything else for this game. There's also Omnimax and superhero modes, and I'll be using a fair amount of assumptions here because I couldn't even unlock them. Probably because I'd have to beat the hard mode first, but Omnimax, I'm assuming, is having max Omnitrix energy all the time, while Superhero, again assuming, lets you be invincible. That or it's a harder version of hard mode. They might be good, but it doesn't feel worth it at all to try and unlock them. Yeah, this is easily the worst Ben 10 game ever. Given the fact that this is a shovelware title, I honestly shouldn't be surprised, but this is a Ben 10 game we're talking about here. Most of the other games have actually been either decent or pretty dang good up until this point. And like I said earlier, there aren't many license-based shovelware titles. I just figured this one would break free of the reputation that shovelware titles have, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Also, this game was apparently sold for like $10. Whoever did that was tripping. Well, at least it can't get any worse than this. I hope. I still have a fair amount of Ben 10 games to go after this, and the next one is a racing game. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. So yay, I was finally able to do this game because I said before that I wasn't able to, but now I am. So now I'll be able to get every Ben 10 game, aside from the DS versions for now, under my belt. And having to include this one is kind of a yikes because it's not that good. Also, this ended up being my 50th review for license-based games, which is insane to think about at this point. But I did want it to be a Ben 10 game because I feel like it's only fitting at this point. Ben 10 games are the most popular ones on my channel for some reason. And it just so happened that the 50th one is a shovelware title that people can't play anymore. Dope. But something else I want to mention because I didn't get the chance to with my last video. Thank you guys for getting me to 3,000 subscribers. I wasn't able to say that last video because I had finished recording that video before I actually got to that milestone. But again, the amount of support that you guys give me for these videos is actually amazing, especially the Ben 10 ones. Again, I don't know why the Ben 10 videos are the ones that popped off the most, but they just are. But the amount of support that you guys give me always helps me out. So thank you guys once more. But if you have not already, make sure you go down to the description below because that's where all of my social medias are located. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and Patreon are all in the description, and there are all ways that you guys can support me and have updates for the channel or whenever a video is uploaded. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until next video, take care.